He wakes up the same way every morning, not because he has to, because he designed it this way. The first thing he reaches for is not his phone. This is not an accident. The bathroom counter has 3 things on it, not because he can't afford more, because he decided 3 was enough. The coffee ritual takes 6 minutes. He has done it every morning for 3 years. It still holds his attention completely. This is the first thing to understand about people who genuinely love minimalism. They are not depriving themselves, they are paying attention. What the room gives back when it is cleared is not emptiness, it is presence. The window, the street, the morning. These are not replacements for things, they are things themselves. His wardrobe has 26 items. He has never stood in front of it wondering what to wear. That 6 minutes every morning, the 6 minutes that other people lose to the wardrobe, has been quietly given back to him. Every day. For years. Minimalism began as a design movement in the 1960s. But the psychology behind it is older than that by several thousand years. Every major wisdom tradition in human history has pointed in the same direction. The accumulation of things does not produce the feeling that the accumulation of things promises. The Buddhist concept of non-attachment. The Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort. Thoreau at Walden. The Japanese concept of ma, the beauty of empty space. Different cultures, different centuries, the same conclusion, and now the research agrees with all of them. Researcher Tim Kasser spent decades studying what he called materialistic value orientation, the degree to which a person prioritizes wealth, possessions, and status. His finding, replicated across cultures and income levels, the more materialistic the values, the lower the well-being, without exception. This is not about money. The relationship between income and happiness is real but levels off quickly. It is about what you organize your life around, what you treat as the proxy for the good life. When the proxy is things, the new thing, the better thing, the next thing, something specific happens in the brain. It is called hedonic adaptation. The new thing produces a spike of positive feeling, and then reliably, without exception, returns to baseline. The sofa, the car, the upgrade, the renovation, each one spikes and returns. The baseline does not rise. What the minimalist has discovered, often through personal experiment rather than research, is that the spike was never the point. The point was always what you could pay attention to, and things cost attention. This is what the research on cognitive load shows. Visual complexity in your environment is processed by your brain, whether you want it to or not. Every surface covered in objects is a small, ongoing cognitive tax. The brain registers and categorizes the environment automatically. The UCLA study that placed cameras in the homes of 32 middle-class American families found that the women's cortisol levels, the stress hormone, correlated directly with the amount of objects in the home. More stuff, more cortisol, measured in the body, without the person knowing it was happening. This is not about tidiness. It is about what the visual environment costs the nervous system. The minimalist's apartment is not bare because they dislike beauty. It is spare because spare is where the nervous system can rest. There is also the question of time. Every object you own makes a small claim on your time. It needs to be maintained, cleaned, insured, moved, stored, found when missing, replaced when broken, and eventually disposed of. These costs are individually small and collectively enormous. Add them up over a decade, and you are looking at significant portions of your life. The minimalist has done this arithmetic, not always consciously, but the math is the math. There is a concept in psychology called decision fatigue. The quality of your decisions degrades throughout the day as your cognitive resources are depleted. Every decision costs something. What to wear, what to do with the thing on the counter, where the thing goes, whether to keep the thing. The minimalist has outsourced many of these decisions in advance, through prior choices about what to own and how to live. The wardrobe is limited because the wardrobe decision was made once and doesn't need to be made again every morning. This is not rigidity. It is deliberate pre-decision as a form of cognitive conservation. Barry Schwartz, the psychologist, called this the paradox of choice. More options do not produce more happiness. They produce more anxiety and more regret. The minimalist lives inside a curated set of options and reports consistently a lower background anxiety and a higher satisfaction with their choices. But minimalism is not only about reduction. This is a misunderstanding. It is also about attention. When you have fewer things, each thing receives more of it. The one piece of art on the wall is not decoration. It is a thing that is actually seen every day because there is nothing competing with it. The single ceramic mug is not a statement. It is an object that is actually held and felt and appreciated because it is not lost among 20 other mugs. This is the minimalist's version of richness, depth of engagement with fewer things rather than shallow contact with many. There is a word for this in Japanese aesthetics: wabi-sabi, the beauty of the imperfect, the incomplete, the ordinary, made visible by the space around it. But minimalism is also misunderstood in a different direction. It is sometimes described as cold, austere, emotionally unavailable. The research does not support this. Studies on voluntary simplicity consistently show higher, not lower, relational satisfaction. When you are not managing things, you have more of yourself available for people. When the environment is quiet, the conversation in it can be heard. The dinner he is at tonight, the food being shared, the laughter, the actual eye contact. This is not separate from the practice. It is the practice made social. Minimalism is also not a fixed destination. It is a direction, not a position. It is not about owning a specific number of objects or passing some test of simplicity. It is about asking regularly and honestly, does this earn its place? Does this serve something I actually value? The question applies to objects and also to commitments, to habits, to ways of spending time, which is why minimalism tends to spread. It starts with the wardrobe and ends with the calendar. There is an interesting neurological dimension to this that researchers are beginning to understand. Attentional restoration theory, developed by Rachel and Stephen Kaplan, proposes that some environments genuinely restore our capacity for attention and others deplete it. Natural environments, simple environments, environments without demand, these restore. Complex, stimulating, demanding environments deplete. The minimalist's home is, in Kaplan's terms, a restorative environment. The depleted attention comes home and is given something to recover in. This is why the evening in a spare apartment feels different from an evening in a crowded one. The nervous system is doing different things. The brain regions associated with planning and self-control in the prefrontal cortex show greater activity and greater performance in less cluttered environments. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection region, shows lower activation in sparse, visually simple spaces. The body's threat response quiets. This is the neuroscience of the clean counter, not philosophy, measured brain activity. There is also the question of identity. This is perhaps the deepest level of what minimalism is actually about. When you own many things, your sense of self becomes entangled with them. Psychologists call this the extended self, the identity that extends outward into possessions. The risk of the extended self. When the things change or go, the self is destabilized. The minimalist builds a self that is internally anchored. The identity is in the values, the attention, the way of being, not in the objects that could be taken away. This produces a specific kind of psychological stability. Not invulnerability, just a self that does not depend on external props to stay coherent. The research on voluntary simplicity also consistently shows something that surprises people. Minimalists report greater, not lesser, enjoyment of beauty. Because beauty requires attention to be received, and attention requires availability. He stops to look at the frost on the leaf. He watches the duck family. He notices the light on the water. These are not small things. They are available to everyone and received by very few, because receiving them requires the specific availability that minimalism is partly the practice of cultivating. The academic literature on voluntary simplicity describes practitioners as having higher scores on life, meaning purpose and autonomy, than comparable groups with more materialistic orientations. Not richer, not more successful by conventional measures, just clearer about what they are for and more able to live accordingly. This is not easy to arrive at. The commercial environment works very hard against it. The average person in a developed economy is exposed to between 4 and 10,000 commercial messages per day. Each one is a small argument that what you have is not enough. Each one is a small vote for the extended self over the internally anchored one. Choosing simplicity inside that environment is not passive. It is a continuous, low-level act of counterintention. It requires not a dramatic single decision, but 1,000 small ones made again and again over time. The wardrobe curated once, and then maintained. The counter cleared once, and then maintained. The practice is in the returning to it, not the arriving at it. He sits on the park bench with his book, and the park happens around him. He is available to both. This is the thing that takes the longest to learn, that less is not a sacrifice. It is an access to your own attention, to the people in front of you, to the morning that is already there. The dinner party was good. The walk home after it was good. Both were good for the same reason. He was actually in them. When the work is difficult, he sits with the difficulty. He does not reach for distraction. He returns. The long walk is not avoidance. It is a different kind of thinking. The body moving the mind forward when sitting still has reached its limit. The thought arrives on the walk, and he writes it down the moment he gets home. The page fills. This is what uninterrupted attention produces. He listens to music the way he does everything. With the whole of his attention given to one thing at a time, the Sunday breakfast is made properly because Sunday morning belongs to him, and he knows what to do with time that belongs to him. Not a trend, not a number of objects, just a life you are actually present for. That is all it ever was.